Claude is a graphic designer, but he's really known as a visual poet. He was among the first Quebec photographers to jump to digital photography and integrate it into his creative process. He was invited as a speaker at the first symposium in digital imaging in Montreal and in the 2008 National Conference of Professional Photographers of Canada, and for the Canadian Association of Photographers and Illustrators in Communication. He has received awards from Montreal Advertising Club, the Graphic Exchange Digital Art Awards, and the Portfolios Award, and the Professional Photo Imaging Magazine Awards. He is also selected for the International Group Exhibition organized by the Center for Fine Art Photography in the Museum of Modern Art in Colorado. His work has been featured in magazines, as well as in two programs and new realities for New York cable television. He also presented his ecological photos to the United Nations at the 60th Conference on Climate Change. Now, Claude will share with us, I'm sure, he's photographed famous artists, sports legends, astronauts, countless of advertising projects, and worked with elite top art directors, makeup artists, decorators, all who understands the vision and attention he brings to detail. So I wanted to read you that a little bit. I tell you that in terms of the fact that this is not just a photographer. What has happened here? I want to encourage you when you watch and listen to Claude to really look at what he's going to be saying. It's what he is seeing, what is going on in that artistic medium that is just so astonishing. Like there's such surprises. You can't just look at one of things and just go, oh, that's pretty or that's not. No, you have to like really focus in and listen on it. It's a very, very beautiful offering. One story about Claude. I had the honor, can you believe this, of being at the Grand Canyon with a group of people when Claude was filming there. And, you know, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. So I was there with these friends. And so we started walking with the equipment, and we finally got to a place on the Grand Canyon where Claude was setting up his pictures. And then we just stayed in that place. And you know, I had never been to the Grand Canyon, and people tell you have to see this and this angle and that angle and this angle. And I was so happy to sit in one place. I felt like I feel no need to see the Grand Canyon. I felt like what I saw there, what I looked at, watching everybody there, watching Claude with the light and that little river, the streak of light hitting that little river at the bottom of the canyon. Oh my God, it was just one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. And such a lesson to really look and see. And that's what the lesson is here. So I'm gonna bring Claude on, and I'm just very excited for you to hear him and really see what is going on. Okay, Claude?
Victoria, for such a beautiful intro. It's always a blast to be able to hear about yourself and see yourself through someone else's eyes. Yeah, this is what it's all about. I remember this day in the Grand Canyon where the sun was setting and lighting this beautiful river in the distance that just came alive. And that's what photography is all about. It's just sitting there and you know, educate yourself to stop looking and start seeing. And that's one of the attributes, of course, of creativity also. Today, we're going to talk about creativity as a mind expansion phenomenon. I like to talk about creativity. I lecture on it because over time, this superseded my photography because it's really that which is, you know, overbearing and everything that I do creatively or artistically, I should say. And I want to outline that, and I try to outline that because I've discovered that creativity is a spiritual path. Not many people sort of view it this way, but essentially that's what it is, for me anyway. And I came to think about creativity in that way because um, I've studied all world religions, and none of them sort of encompass the universality that they're supposed to, simply because they've been viewed through human eyes, and we all have very limited perception. And what we're trying to do in our spiritual quest is to expand our vision. And I've not found a better way of doing that than through creative expression, through incorporating as much creativity in my life as possible. And so, looking at the different religions, whether you're a Buddhist or Catholic or Judaism, there's one thing that we can't deny is that we're part of something that's called creation. And so if we're part of something, I think we can all agree on that. And because, otherwise nothing would be going on. And it's really obvious that something's going on. And so I asked myself, if the common denominator of everything that we're going through and the sum total of our perceptions is called creation, I would assume, and as most people do, that there's a creator. And if that's the case, then the highest form of prayer, or the easiest way to get close to the creator or the source, would be to try and emulate creation ourselves. I think that one of the great facts that empowers artists in trusting their unique vision on the universe and sharing it is that they are co-creators with the source. And for myself, I feel the happiest when I'm creating. I started out by doing painting, and my obsession with light soon brought me to photography, and I've been, expressing through photography for the better half a century. Oh my God. But time being what it is, the illusion that it is, I think that I hope that some of the photography puts us out of the space-time continuum. So this is an informal, it really is an informal meeting. I rarely talk about creativity without having something prepared, but what I wanted to share with you is the photography. So I prepared a slideshow. So at one point in time, I decided to leave, or at least partly leave, my commercial career and explore some photography, fine arts photography, where I was using light as an agent to show transformation, to show actually spiritual transformation in people. And so that also gave way to, it led me to meet Kenneth Mills. I know that Victoria has spoken a lot, and we have spoken yesterday of Kenneth Mills, who was a multidimensional human. He sort of encouraged me to follow the path of sharing this kind of photography. And his photography was, his poetry was the inspiration, a very fundamental inspiration. I'm putting together a show that's called Tonal Visions, which will involve showing the photography with Dr. Mills' poetry in a multimedia event. I've been at it for 15 years, so the reason why this is taking so long is that I never wanted to make tonal visions a gallery experience, but more a theatrical or museum type of experience, and that requires a lot of funding. And it's coming along in the sense that the technology that I'm interested in using is becoming much more accessible. So it might happen in the next few years. Obviously, I practice what I preach. I always tell people to try and explore their creativity by stepping out of the technical aspects of their trade or their art and trying to see a bigger picture to create a master plan that will eventually lead them to expanding themselves. When I mention creativity as a spiritual path, it's a full-time therapy, that you're trying to gather in yourself the qualities that will make you a multidimensional person. And so in organizing something like that, you not only have to be a photographer, the creator, you have to be a producer and a fundraiser, which I'm not really good at up to now. The project was started by donation from the Kenneth Mills Foundation to enable me to travel to sacred places on the planet to find models that I could work with that were put in situ. Every photograph has a story. Very few of them are planned when we're shooting. In these sacred places. The internet helps a lot in trying to find some models that want to join us and to produce whatever you're seeing right now. As I said, some of them are done on location, some of them are done in studio. I try to work on location as much as possible because I like the natural environment. The reason why, it's complicated to do photography like that is because you need, well, first, I just talked about funding. Traveling to different natural wonders isn't cheap. Well, right now it's out of the question because of what we're going through with this virus, but we have to go to the location and set up and find a model for it, etc. Contrary to having a canvas and a paintbrush. All you need is a studio and your creativity and your vivid imagination. This particular image was done with a soprano named Giorgia Fumanti, who has a very good career. She has an international career, and we decided to do a photo shoot. We've done some photo shoots in nature, but this particular one was done in studio. I sometimes blow up certain natural scenes, which I pin in the back of the studio. This one was done similar to this, and a lot of the light effects that you see in the photography is done with fiber optics garments. They're not Photoshop effects. I sort of prefer using light that's coming from the subject. So I use the technology that I found. These fiber optics garments are fantastic to convey that. And so you get these, these nice movements in the light as the model just dances around, which was the case for this photograph. And I added the dove wings as if it was, just leaving the picture thereafter. So it's I've always liked this image.
May I say something, Claude? It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I think when I look at it, it's like, for me, it's like becoming what we really are, which is light. It's like almost transcending into that.
Well, yeah, the whole project is all about what we're becoming. For my whole commercial career, I showed the world as it is, shooting anything from products to fashion or whatever. But the master plan here is to try and look within and feed the images that are within me to the outer world by using all of these different multi-disciplinary techniques. So yeah, that's what you see, the transformation through flora, fauna, and light through of all of the things that you see. This is an in situ photo. That means it's not done, it's done in nature. This is Sedona, Arizona. There was a beautiful story about this series of photographs. We went to Sedona, which is this particular park is a tourist attraction. It's fantastic because you can see the beautiful mountains in the background. And I was photographing, like as a pre-production inspiration, I was photographing this very Zen tree. And I was with Ellen Mann, and Ellen was in the back of me. And at one point I told her, I said, this is such a Zen looking tree. I'd really like to do a photo shoot here. As I wonder if we could, find a model for that. And so she tapped me on the shoulder. And she said, turn around, you have a surprise. And so I turned around, and there was this Buddhist monk that was looking at us, So I said, oh my God, I have to go and talk to this guy. And so we talked to him, and I started talking to him like for 2 or 3 minutes, and he couldn't understand a word that I was saying because he was from Korea. But there was a woman with him that spoke English, so she translated everything to him. And so basically I asked him if he could model for me. And, so he said, well, if you can give me a reference of what you're doing, then I'll decide if I want to accept or not. So basically I showed him some photographs. I told him about Kenneth Mills, which was my creative mentor, and he invited us for tea the next morning at his place at 6 a.m. So Ellen and myself went, and he says, well, I checked you up on the internet, and I checked up the KGM Foundation, and I agree to pose for you. So this is one of the images that was done the next afternoon. There was a lot of clouds, as you can see in the sky. And basically, again, it's a question of waiting for the right lighting. There was this beautiful, these photo shoots take hours. I mean, it's just not a question of putting the person there clicking. But this Korean monk taught meditation in Korea, and he actually said that before he became a Buddhist monk, he was a dancer. So he started posing for us all over the place, and he was just magnificent. And that particular instance, there was a ray of light that came through the clouds that lit the mountain in the background, and there was a sliver of light lighting his shoulder as he was sort of taking this beautiful pose in the tree. And so I played with the light in post-production to enhance that, and that's the result. And you see several of those in the slideshow with different poses. This is Sedona, Arizona. This one was done with Suzanne, my wife. She graciously offered to pose as a model. And it was done, let me just bring it back. It was done in the Chiricahua Mountains. There's many caves in the Chiricahuas where Cochise used to hide from the American cavalry. And nowadays you can visit some of these caves. They have beautiful entrances where the light can happen. So I decided to, in this particular cave, the starkness of the rock, and which is totally devoid of life everywhere, was creating this contrast. But underground there was this plant. It was the only plant in the whole cavern. So the model got dressed, the light was just right at a certain point, and it created sort of this glow around her, and she's like pointing towards this plant. So it's sort of suggesting that we're not here to dominate the nature. We're here to use our divine resources to regenerate through nature, but also give our own energy to the planet so that it can continue doing what it's always done before, which is to nourish us, to regenerate us. I've stopped seeing man as an abuser of nature. I want to see man in his transformation as a giver towards nature, and um, that's a theme that you'll find very often in the photography. I talked about this yesterday. This is called More Than Mind. It's, the light lighting the model from behind. And it's basically a celebration of the divine feminine and, acknowledging the healing qualities of women. And so this is done in studio, as I said, and the background was dropped thereafter. This sky was shot in Arizona, and you can see the mountains in the back, and it was raining. And so this the model part was shot in studio. She's a very good dancer. She's a very good artist. Her name is Marie-Josée, and she gracefully accepted to do some photography where I dropped her body into the sky. And the photographs is called A Touch of Ecstasy. And again, it's something that outlines the divine feminine as it's sort of a witchy type of photograph, but she's actually touching, and you can feel the regeneration that's coming through her as she touches the sun coming through the clouds. And this one's called Unbound. I visited a sacred spot in Greece. It's called Petaloudes. It's on Paros Island, and you have this beautiful valley. It's called the Valley of the Butterflies. And when I went there, there were millions and millions of butterflies in this beautiful valley. If you ever go to Paros, you have to check this place out. And so I photographed different aspects of the forest. I photographed hundreds of butterflies. And the model, again, was shot in studio. It's very complicated. It would be very complicated to do images like this in situ because, again, I used the garment, the fiber optics garment in this gauzy material. And the idea is to show, from a human standpoint, a woman in a cocoon, which is what happens to butterflies. The butterflies are simply, they create the chrysalis and they emerge. The insect or the caterpillar becomes a beautiful butterfly. So this is a beautiful symbol of the transformation of us human beings into something else, which is of a higher nature.
Well, I have to say that was just beyond. This is like a beauty unfoldment.
But when I talk about creativity, I rarely show my photographs, and I thought it'd be a good idea today to sort of channel the ideas of creativity as a spiritual experience through what I do.
No, I love hearing because it just gives such an insight into it. I love listening to you about. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the feedback. Hi, Ron. This one, some of the shots are done on other continents on the planet, and others are done in my backyard. So this one is done in my backyard. I have the privilege of greeting international students in my home. This is the first international student that actually stayed with us. Her name is Charlotte. She's from Germany. And um, she liked my photography so much that she wanted me to photograph her and to be part of some of my photography. So having these models around all the time is a great gift from the universe for me, because I'm able to sometimes travel with them, and I don't have to go through the process of finding someone that understands what I'm doing. So this was basically done in my backyard. Again, there's no Photoshop here. It was done with spraying some mist and smoke in some of the foliage that's in my backyard. She put a very nice ecologically looking dress on, and what she's holding looks like a nest, but it's really this fiber optics garment that carries the light that's triggered by a flash. There's a flash, of course, inside. And so it becomes a light source and it becomes magical. This was done in Arizona, White Pockets, Arizona. There's only the light that's happening there at twilight, just before sunset. And that model was contacted through the internet, and they were gracious enough, his girlfriend and him, to join me in this very rough terrain. It's like 4 hours of all-terrain vehicle to get there, but it's one of the most surreal places that I found on the planet, because it looks like the rock was molten at one point, and you have all of these ripples and beautiful textures. We have an amazing planet, but this really looks like Mars or something.
Claude,
Yep.
I have a request here for Ron to unmute him if you want to unmute him.
It's great to hear you talk about these, and they are beautiful. I especially want to go to the first one, the monk.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could see that again, is it possible to see it, or you have a sequence?
Nope, I'm individually selecting. Here we go.
What struck me so much about this creation is that the monk's meditation was shown as the light on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
What struck me so much, and I understand these things are personal in the way we see these, but it's as if the monk's meditation in the tree, the light of his meditation illuminated the background.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. That's the whole power behind the photograph, Ron, and I'm so happy that you perceived it. The idea of all this photography is to show that we, as co-creators with the source, can do so much with thought. I mean, when you look at quantum physics, there's two underlying truths in quantum physics that stands out for me. Is that one, we're part of a unified field. And that means that we're part of a network. Nobody is an island. We're all somehow connected. And the second is that thought is creative. Thought has an influence on matter. When you look at the different experiments that were done with streams of electrons, you've probably seen that in the documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? We see that when there's an observer, the stream of electrons behaves differently than when there's not. So the only possible conclusion to that is that there's a thought from the observer that influences the results. So for the creative mind, for a person that's into making creativity their religion or their main spiritual path, the fact that thought is creative is a fantastic news. It's fantastic because it means that whatever you train yourself to be as a creator, you realize your thoughts are that much more important. And that's been proven in all kinds of experiments, which is why we do group meditations and visualizations. Thought is creative, and we're all part of this network. And in this photograph, it comes out well that it seems that the meditation in this beautiful, it looks like, he looks like an egg that's being sort of fed from this beautiful tree. And it seems that he's found the light or starting to emanate the light. And you see it in the distance as sort of an offshoot of what this monk is doing.
You know, light in my poetry is a very big factor. It's a very big element, and it's mysterious because what fascinates me is the fact that, number one, the experience of being the light as awareness, as being the source of the light, is one side of it. But the other side of it is, what is light when it has no object to illuminate? And that fascinates me, because that consideration brings about a different state of consciousness. So I share your fascination with light on many different levels.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's so nice to connect. I mean, creativity is all about sharing. It's all, and it's a great rejoicing for me to talk with someone such as yourself. Of course, you're an artist yourself. You're a great poet, and to be able to share and to see what we're creating through someone's eyes, that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah. That particular day when we were shooting, we had plays of light that were continuous. And there's two more photographs of this monk. I'm going to try and find them so that we can look at them right now. Here's one of them. So he simply took another pose and the variation of the light, they were done simultaneously, is hitting the tree. And he put his hand against the tree as if the light was coming from his own hand. So that was an interesting variation to that shoot. Let me find the other one. Here we go. You see, and in this one, he was dancing around. And then he just leaned against the tree and put his hand again towards the part of the tree that was lit. It's just a beautiful composition in the sense where he looks as if he's part of the tree, and his arm is just another branch that's coming from the tree. And then you can see, I mean, the hand is pointing towards the light, but the light is pointing towards the mountain and the way it's being lit. So it was a magical moment. I mean, photography is all about magical moments, and this is why I like to go through the photographs, and those that are into photography, fine arts photography, will know that some of them are orchestrated and some of them are spontaneous, like this one here. This one, I wanted to create something that spoke about an equilibrium. And this model was gracious enough. Also, she contacted me because she liked what I did and she wanted to pose for me. Makes me think of the title Brother, Sun, and Sister Moon, which is it's a film, the title of a film for Saint Thomas of Assisi, Francis of Assisi, I'm sorry. And this is not studio work, it's done on location. The only thing that was changed from the shoot is I added the moon. The moon was not in this spot, but the sun was, and I added a few clouds to dramatize it. Again, that's from the same shoot with Charlotte in my backyard. So we did experiments with the nest of fiber optics. And again, for me, this is a symbol of abundance, but it's all about the light. This was done in a farm where the it's a farm where they have animals that are used for advertising and film. So the animals are they befriend humans. A lot of them were taken and sent to this farm because they were sick and they were, or they were born there, and they live in beautiful conditions. And so we did a series of photographs with these animals to try and outline, again, the unity of human beings can have with fauna, not only flora, but fauna. This was done at sunrise. And there again, this girl was, willing to shoot for me. And we woke up at 4 a.m. to get ready. And she, put on a garment that I bought through the Kenneth Mills Foundation funding that went very well with the environment. I mean, she was backlit by the sun, as you can see, and we had, I shoot, especially nowadays, with a lot of smoke. And we put this beautiful raccoon on her shoulder, and she seems to be very, very friendly with the raccoon.
Claude,
Yep.
question. Really, from the sublime to maybe the ridiculous. So, Claude, if there were people like myself and people that I know, in the consciousness world, who had pictures of themselves, full body pictures, and they send them to you,
Mm-hmm.
you manipulate those pictures to make that kind of statement that you're making, the light within, or the transformative power, or something about them? Do you have to have them in person? Can you do it through, a digital means in your studio?
I always need the person with me because even if I'm if I'm not shooting in situ, I need to um, choreograph the photograph so that it makes sense. I can't just take a photograph that someone sends me. First, there's usually quality issues. Um, the eventual objective of these photographs is to show them and reproduce them 10, 12, 15, 20 feet wide. And very few people will send me images that have the proper resolution. I've invested a lot of money in my equipment. I shoot with a phase 1 camera that's 80 megapixels. It's a $35,000 camera. So when somebody wants to shoot with me, they have to show up, and then we decide on a scenario. And either that person travels with me, or we figure something out that will be complemented with studio work. Sometimes, like when I went to the Sequoia forest, it was very, very cold, and I couldn't always photograph with people semi-nude. So I photographed the people dressed, and then when I was able to shoot them in studio with the type of garment that would go well with the photograph, then I would do that and just paste the garment in the photograph. This was done in the Dominican Republic, beautiful waterfalls. The problem there was there was too many tourists. But with photographic techniques of shooting, maybe 100 photographs of the same waterfall, I was able to have all the information and Photoshop out the tourists. So these are techniques. There again, same shoot with Charlotte in my backyard. This was done in the same spot in White Pockets, Arizona. This is the girlfriend of the gentleman you saw before. There again, no retouching here. Everything was done with light garments in situ. This is another compliment of the shoot with Suzanne in the Chiricahua Caves. This was done in Palgrave, Ontario, around Dr. Mill's home. We were taking a walk with Moira Dedrick, and then I saw the sun was coming right at the exact spot that I needed to have the sun exactly in the middle of this beautiful tree path. So I asked Moira if she wanted to model for me. And she says, yes, yes, yes. And so we ran back to her house, which was only, a few minutes away. And we grabbed the garment that you're seeing is actually a tablecloth. So you have to be creative on the moment. So most of this is not photoshopped or anything like that. The only thing is that I wanted more flow in the garment after that. So she lent me the tablecloth, which I brought back in the studio, and I blew some wind into it to add a few pieces of the garment. And I added, of course, the light garment, the fiber optics light garment along the spine to give the impression that the light is actually coming through her from the sun. The sun position was just perfect. And when she was shooting, she actually had 2 flashes in her arms that went off when I told her so, which creates the 2 rays of light on the ground. So it gives the impression that she is the source of light because she's being transformed by the sun. So all of these components came together in that magical moment where the sun was coming through the trees, and we sort of grabbed the moment. So there's our monk again. So this was shot. This was shot in with Steve Mack, our former president of the KGM Foundation in Sequoia Park. This is Sequoia Park National Forest in California. And we had these 3 beautiful trees that were sort of welded together. And I thought, oh, we have to do a photo shoot here. So Steve was used as a model, but it was too cold. It was very cold. And that's an example of where I shot him right there. And after that, I reshot him in studio where it was warmer and just dropped the garment but he in the original picture, he's actually there. His arm is exactly there. And in this picture, you can see I made the root at the place where he's touching the root a little paler so that it would convey the idea that, again, the human being is contributing energy to nature and not only abusing it or using it. So there's a synergy that's created in the creative process of showing this type of pictures. This is a theme. I wanted to do one on earth, air, water, and fire, and that's the air part. That was done in studio, and I dropped the sky thereafter. But I usually take a breath of fresh air, of a deep breath when I look at this photograph. This was done in Antigua, again with one of my international students. We walked by the sea and we saw this beautiful tree overhanging the ocean. This was like 4 or 5 hours before we took our plane back. And I asked her if she was game, and she said, yes, yes, yes. And so she's a gymnast also. So she's spectacularly, how would I say, flexible. And she just went up that tree like there was nothing. And she posed, and then we had all kinds of gulls flying around, and created more magic in the photograph. So this is in situ. It's not studio work. It was done, right then and there.
Oh, there's a question.
Mm.
There's a question from someone about what did the monk think of the photograph of himself?
Oh, he loved it. I sent the photographs back to Korea. He teaches thousands of people meditation, and he was appreciative of the photography. I sent him copies of it, but I never heard from him again thereafter. And so it was hard for me to communicate with him because he didn't speak English. I needed to speak to him even with emails through the interpreter that we had in Sedona. Yeah. This is a theme that I wanted to do with hummingbirds. I've always been fascinated with hummingbirds. So I went to the Desert Museum in Arizona, and I asked to do a shoot if we could close a part. Now they have this bird sanctuary in a dome where there's thousands and thousands of hummingbirds. And I asked to do a photo shoot there if we could sort of close a part of the museum to do the shoot, but they didn't want to do that. So what I did instead is I spent half a day shooting the hummingbirds with the flowers and everything. And it's pretty well the same approach that I did in the Valley of the Butterflies in Greece. I decided to do a composite, and so I shot the model in studio. For this one, we had a stylist and a hairdresser. She took my light garment, the fiber optics garment, and weaved it in her hair. So the effect that you see in her hair is not Photoshop. It's actually the light garment that's showing through. And the beauty of this, again, in the photographs, what you feel is somebody that's in communion with nature and is friend with the animals. And the light is shining through. I very much love this photograph. There again, this is another variation of another pose in the Chiricahua Mountains of the plant. This was shot with, putting a light. It was shot in, I won't tell you because I don't want to destroy the mysticism of the imagery, but I used a flash to bounce on the water with a special filter to create this beautiful light effect. And the model in the picture is my son with his girlfriend.
Oh, beautiful. Oh my God.
This is called Terra Deva. It's one of the first images that I produced with this spiritual intention. And how much time do I have left?
Claude, I think that's a perfect place to stop because you're going to have to give the hosting back to Noel. Because
Okay.
it's so beautiful. I don't think I can take much more.
Well, let me just set up my coordinates. I rarely take the time to do a little self promo, but if people want to get in contact with me, these are my coordinates. If they want to see more of the photography, they just can go to Tonal Vision's blog spot. If they want to subscribe to my Instagram, I try and put up some creativity thoughts every week. Tonal Vision has a Facebook page, or you can email me if you have any needs. All of these images are available for sale. If anybody's interested in supporting this kind of work, I have all kinds of products. My online store is down, but if people write to me, I have cards that I sell. I have posters that I sell of some of the images, and of course, there's fine arts, limited edition prints, which are more expensive, but can contribute to continuing the work of Tonal Visions. Thank you for the opportunity. It might be a little out of context with the title of the talk, but this is what creativity is all about. This is my avenue, my offering, and I think the purpose of life is to use the resources that are lent to us and share them. That's the way that we co-create the universe, and that's the way that the universe expands and feels happy about everything that exists. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Claude. Thank you very much. What an incredible presentation. So rich and beautiful. And I'm in awe. It's very, very, very special.
Well, thank you for your appreciation. It's very, very encouraging, and it's always a beautiful motivation to continue whatever we're doing.
So Ron and I would love to speak to you. That is poetry and do more co-creation.